Welcome to the India Fintech Diaries, the only podcast focused exclusively on the Indian fintech market. I'm Elroy.
And I'm Hemant. In each episode, we dive into the latest trends, ideas, innovations, business models, and personalities that are shaping India's fintech landscape.
We also invite amazing guests who are innovators and industry players that are driving the change that is helping make financial services more modern, innovative, and inclusive in India. Come join us as we explore the changing landscape of fintech in India. Welcome back to India Fintech Diaries, your go-to show for all things Indian fintech. I'm Elroy, your host, and in today's episode, we will continue on our journey into interesting new developments in the world of lending.
And I'm Hemant. In the month of June, NPCI did over 9 billion transactions worth over USD 179 billion in value on UPI. But what if a new innovation could greatly increase the pie of digital payments in India? Yeah, you're thinking about the right thing. I'm talking about credit on UPI. And to talk more on this subject, we have with us today Mohit Bedi, co founder and chief business officer at Kiwi. Welcome to India FinTech Diaries, Mohit.
Hi, thanks Hemant and Elroy for this.
Awesome. So, Mohit, before we start and dive into the topic for the day, can you give us a brief overview of your background for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a payment veteran for a long time now, more than 22, 23 years. In fact, in payments, I've been mostly on the credit card side. So I started my career with GSBI. This is in the year 2000. And I've moved around various banks, which includes Stanchart, Barclays. But my most enriching stint has been with Citibank. When I left Citibank, I was the head of premium cards business for Citibank. So, and my last role, I was heading the consumer cards for Axis Bank and also the acquiring business for Axis Bank in India. So, as you can see, I've been in both sides of the payment, the acquiring and issuing side. And that's actually what I'm very interested in, keen to take it forward.
Very interesting, Mohit. Mohit, today, if we have about 87 million credit cards in India, and the number of debit cards actually stands much, much higher at 974 million. Now, while this 87 million number seems like a big number, right? Many people actually have multiple credit cards. So the actual number of unique credit cards is probably even smaller. Now, in percentage terms, if we look at the ratio, this credit card to debit card ratio has pretty much been 10% for the last decade plus and has been pretty much stagnant. So, Mohit, I just wanted to get your views on why hasn't credit card penetration really taken off in the same manner in which we have made strides in debit penetration? What's really driving this retail credit gap?
So, see, credit worthiness is something that we've always struggled in India for. We found various surrogate ways of assessing the credit worthiness of an individual. So, you would have seen the proliferation of co-brands, etc. Now, those are surrogate ways of taking database of partners and trying to give them a credit worthy limit so that they can spend on. Now, obviously, the spends thereof decide whether you are a credit worthy customer or not. Now, those fields have been limited in India. And you must remember that the debit card penetration that you see includes everything like Jandhan, etc. And government had mandated that you had to issue debit cards to all your account holders. So maybe that's not the right way of looking at it, whether these customers are credit worthy or not. But what you should look at is that the number of income tax payers and number of bureau records that are there in India, the penetration of credit card is pretty decent. And when you see the private sector banks and most of the big credit card players, majority of the population now, they are giving credit cards to are new to credit customers. Right. And that's where the game changes, right? So you need to have surrogate ways of underwriting the customer. I mean, in Citibank, when we were there, we had a very innovative surrogate called boarding pass surrogate. Okay. Because we had a Jet Airways co-brand. And what we used to do is we used to have salespeople standing outside the airport. And the moment a Jet Airways flight landed and people were exiting, we used to say, if you have a boarding pass, we'll give you a credit card. Imagine that's the nascent stage of underwriting a customer through surrogate, what Citibank started. And today, look at what Amazon and Flipkart are doing, correct? It's like you're trying to underwrite basis the spending pattern. Let's say if a person is buying an iPhone on Amazon on their savings account, because these are not cash on delivery products, right? So you can actually underwrite them for at least, let's say, 25,000 rupees line and then grow it over a period of time. So the dynamics of the industries have changed. There is a lot of new to credit decisioning happening. but there are smarter ways of doing it now, and that's what I think most of the banks who have a big credit card play have been able to crack.
Mohit, it's interesting you brought up the entire new to credit segment. We also wanted to get your views on what do you think about the views of Indian consumers towards credit. What's their outlook like?
So there, see, credit card was always and will always be a payment convenience
Right.
product, right? It's not exactly a credit product. People don't take a credit card to make the payment at a later date or revolve on it,
Right.
correct? It will always be a payment product. However, when it comes to new age products like BNPL, small ticket personal
Right.
loans, or merchant EMIs, etc., those are genuinely credit products where you actually are paying interest and you are making payments over a period of 3 months, 4 months,
Right.
6 months. Credit card is just it's a foot in the door for the bank to start underwriting a customer, and it's the cheapest product, right? Because you need to understand the credit card dynamics. You Let's say if Hemant, I give a line of 1 lakh rupees, most likely he will use only 20,000 rupees,
Right.
right? Because that's the general usage rate of a credit card. And of that 20,000, even if he defaults, which is 2%, you a bank on that customer, to find out if he's a good or a bad customer, a bank loses anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 rupees,
Right.
right? So credit card is a great way of finding good and bad customers and then upgrading him to giving him a personal loan, auto loan, home loan, etc. So credit card will always be a payment convenience product. There are other products like EMIs, BNPL, small ticket personal loan, or convert your purchases into EMI transactions, which then fall into the category of actually credit and revolving behavior.
Understood. That's a very interesting way of looking at it, Mohit. So there is affordability products and then there is convenience product. Now, when we come to credit on UPI, what is the position of this product in this entire range of credit and affordability products which are there, and what use cases would this particular product target?
Fair enough. And I think first we should just remember the fact that credit card is a payment
Correct.
convenience product. Remember, I
Yeah.
said that it's a payment convenience product. Now, what is a convenience you're giving to the customer is he's taking his card to Vijay Sales or Chroma, he's swiping and entering his PIN, and his transaction happens. He pays in 50 days, right? That's a classic plastic card convenience product.
Correct.
Now, where does credit on UPI fill in? Again, it's going with the same theme of payment convenience. Now, imagine if you go to a vada pav vendor under your office, right? And you are paying through your UPI transaction already, but now it gives you a different option, another option besides your savings account. It gives you a credit card option, right? To make your payment to that vada pav vendor when you're
Yeah.
Right.
transacting. And 13 or 15 rupees transaction is also happening on a credit card. So where is the convenience happening in the entire ecosystem? Number of merchants are actually growing tenfold because of UPI. Your statements just gets decluttered. I don't know how both of you would have seen that आपका UPI transaction would have just ballooned your
Yeah. It's a
savings account
nightmare.
statement.
Nightmare to just figure out.
Yeah, and that CA is the other nightmare, that he keeps asking you, where did you spend your 10 rupees, 15 rupees, etc. Now imagine, so first convenience is the number of merchants drastically increase. Your savings account becomes decluttered, right? Because everything is on credit card, and CA love credit card bills because उसमें कुछ करने की
हाँ.
जरूरत नहीं है, right? You're paying it. He says, okay, this was your June month credit card statement. You paid. Everything is hunky dory. I'm fine with it. Let's move on. So first convenience is growth on number of merchants. Second is your statements gets decluttered. And the third convenience is you were always on the back of your mind if you were going for a breakfast in the morning to Matunga or someplace else, after a game or a jog, etc. You most likely forgot your wallet,
Right.
correct? Why will you carry your wallet everywhere? Now imagine you were already used to the UPI transactions, and now you can pay for that dosa or the South Indian food you had with friends with credit card, right? So you carrying your wallet goes away completely. So credit on UPI is payment convenience, as I was saying earlier,
Right.
at a different level altogether. So I will always see credit card as a payment convenience product. It's not basically, it doesn't encourage you to revolve or do anything, right? That's not the kind of revolve you want to do because of the enormous interest rate it charges, right? And that's what we keep telling the customer, that credit on UPI, look at it as a super payment convenience product from what you already had.
And Mohit, generally, when you look at credit card, it was a single layer product at least, where you swipe it and it goes to the network and then the transaction flow happens. Now this will be a two-layered one, right? There will be a network for now, RuPay, and then there is also the entire UPI architecture which was created. So if someone has to understand when a transaction will happen on a credit card on UPI, what would be the transaction flow across the stakeholders or parties involved in the entire transaction?
It becomes slightly
Mhm.
complicated because you're marrying two
Correct.
ecosystems, right? In a bank, there is a UPI ecosystem which talk to your debit card management system or the IMPS ecosystem, etc. Whatever. However, that savings bank account ecosystem, if that's a better way
Right.
of saying, that is traditionally where UPI ecosystem used to work, and there is the credit card management system, right? There is
Correct.
CCMS. Now the transaction it's a UPI transaction ultimately, right? Because there is in a credit on UPI ecosystem, you actually just need your UPI ID to do all the transaction. Card numbers will sooner or later, as per me, become redundant. So when the transaction flow happens, it first goes through the UPI flow, then goes to the card management system for authorization and approval, comes back to the UPI switch, which again authenticates it and passes it on to the network, and which goes to the merchant. So it's a typical UPI transaction. However, your authorization and authentication happens from the credit card management system. Now, if I were to explain it in layman terms, typically you would have seen there are only 4 or 5 banks that are ready as per NPCI websites. There are only 4 or 5 banks which are ready on credit on
Right.
UPI, right? For example, if my information is correct, banks like ICICI are still not ready. So these banks, what they are doing is their UPI switch. So let's take, for example, Axis Bank. The UPI switch and the credit card management switch need to talk to each other, start talking to each other, because the transaction of UPI will flow to the credit card management switch for authorization and approval, give back the result to the UPI switch, and send it back to the network to pass it on to the merchant or the customer.
Right.
Correct? I don't know. I don't know if I've made it complicated, but the bank's UPI switch and the card management switch in this case need to talk to each other, which a lot of banks are struggling with or are still not ready. I mean, I can tell you large banks who are not ready, but you must also actually give the due credit to some Indian PSU banks who are actually live with all this technology where private sector banks are struggling. So, for example, Canara Bank, Indian Bank, and the likes are already ready on credit on UPI ecosystem, whereas banks like Yes Bank, ICICI, etc., still, and IndusInd, RBL, these banks, which are new age banks, are still not ready on this ecosystem. So it's slightly complicated, but long story short, the UPI switch of that bank needs to talk to the card management switch, so that both these systems can not only process the transaction but pass on authorization and approval
Correct.
to the RuPay switch, which needs to go to the merchant or the credit card holder.
Mohit, thanks for that very detailed description of how credit on UPI works. I had a supplementary question on use cases. Now, if you look at UPI P2M statistics, right, as they stand today, without credit on UPI included in it, some very interesting points arise. If you look at the transaction value size, about 84% of those P2M transactions are today typically in the sub 500 rupee range, right? Which seems to very strongly
Yes.
indicate that UPI is really succeeding as a replacement for cash for predominantly low value transactions. And on the other hand, if you look at the average transaction value size for credit cards, you'll typically come to about in the 5,000, 6,000 rupee range as of today, right? Which
Yes.
typically means that credit cards as a product today are largely used for very higher value transactions on an average. So my question is, with the introduction of credit on UPI, how do you see this playing out, right? Is it going to actually broad base UPI penetration by further bringing even high value transactions into UPI mix? Or you expect it to really cannibalize existing UPI volumes as existing UPI users will switch to credit on UPI for the convenience, credit free period, rewards, etc.?
And that's a very interesting question. And we were also struggling with, when we were actually about to launch Kiwi, we were also struggling with the fact that low ticket transactions are actually not very profitable, right? Because the switching cost makes it unprofitable. And we were always wondering that if we get low ticket transactions, will we actually be able to make money in a
Correct.
credit on UPI transaction, etc. See, the credit card transactions in India, let's take the average spends on credit card that you see as per RBI website is around 1.2 lakh to 1.4 lakh
Correct.
crores a
Correct.
month. Correct. P2M transactions are typically, and I'm including P2, P2M also, because they'll also fall into P2M
Correct.
gambit sooner
Correct.
or later, anywhere near 3.5 to 4 lakh
Right.
crores, correct? Just imagine the ecosystem of P2M, which is purely transacting on savings account right now, is 4 times the credit
Right.
card
Right.
spends. In fact, even if you add credit and debit card spends in a month, P2M will be 2 or 3 times
Correct.
that. That's how huge the P2M ecosystem is. Now, remember, CC on UPI, most likely it is credit worthy segment that will enter into, and the P2M transactions will transfer into credit on UPI spends are mostly going to come from people who are credit
Right.
worthy, correct? Now, credit worthy are typically, let's say, middle income group or high income
Yeah.
group, correct? Or lower middle income group or high income group. Now, when we see the ticket size over there, it's very different, right? It is the people who are credit worthy, or in a way you can surrogate way of, we can underwrite them. Their ATS, average ticket size, as I
Yeah.
say, is much different from the Janta population, if that's a better
Right.
way of saying. What we've seen is that the average ticket size, and we are processing close to, actually we are generating on Kiwi alone, we are generating a spend of 1.5 to 2 crores a day every day right now, and we are just 15 days old in the business. But the average ticket size is anywhere close to 1,000 to 1,200. That's the kind of ticket size we are seeing. And the beauty is that the ticket size actually differs from mobile device
Right.
also. So so we see two kinds of devices, right? Android and iOS. The iOS device shows a ticket size of which is shows a ticket size at least 30-40% higher than Android. So just to answer your specific question, the ATS that you see on P2M transactions as per NPCI data contains the whole universe of 250 to 250 million UPI users in India, unique mobile
Right.
numbers that NPCI publishes. Out of that, around 70 to 80 million are the people as per us, which are probably underwritable in India in one or the other manner.
Correct.
Correct? And that the ticket size of that janta, or the credit worthy population which could be credit card holders or high spenders on other websites, etc., that ticket size is at least double or double that of the ticket size that you see as per the NPCI website. So that's not been a worry for us.
Now, switching gears here, Mohit, and switching to Kiwi, interesting name, and I love the brand colors, by the way. How did you come up with the name, and what is the story behind the genesis of the firm, specifically the problem that you're trying to solve at Kiwi?
So हम लोग यार, we were startup guys. We three of us had met, and we are first time
Okay.
entrepreneurs. So हम लोगों को and we've been in various banks or
Ah.
fintechs. I don't know if you know, Siddharth is the ex-CEO of Freecharge, and Anup is
Yep.
was the business head of
Yep.
LazyPay. So हम लोग, what we had over a period of time realized that one, we wanted a name which was catchy, which was sort of a monosyllable, if that's a better way of
Right.
saying. And we, in our past lives, we had seen so many fintechs doing course corrections and getting stuck to a name and not able to do course correction,
Right.
right? So for example, let's take Freecharge for example. If they wanted to get into lending, that name doesn't define
Right.
lending, right? Or if you take LazyPay, it is LazyPay, right? It doesn't mean that it can actually process regular payments
Mhm.
also. So we wanted a name where, in case we want to pivot over a period of time, then we wanted a neutral name. So that were the basic contours of what we wanted to get a name on. And then the thought was that we wanted something green, right? Because that's the color of money, not in India, but in whatever manner you want to say. And that's how we thought that we wanted a name where we could use the color green leisurely. That's when Kiwi came up, because one, it was slightly premium, and the millennials could actually felt nice about saying Kiwi,
Right.
etc. Plus, if you see, Kiwi had three different the fruit has three different colors,
Correct.
right? There's an outer dark layer, then there is a very light green layer which is core to the
Correct.
fruit, and then there is the seeds, etc. And we were three kinds of payment instrument, right? You could, if you use our app, you can actually pay by credit, your savings account, which is debit, and you can actually use your rewards also to make payment, because We don't give vouchers, etc. on Kiwi. Your reward points are cash, which go straight back to your account. So when we saw that there were three colors, there were three kind of payments mechanism, Kiwi fit the bill, and we got a very good response around the name also. That's how Kiwi happened.
Interesting. That is very interesting. And moving to the problem that you're trying to solve at Kiwi.
So what we've realized over a period of time is nobody see. I was the debit card business head also during my days at
Right.
Axis Bank, and when UPI actually started, we were interacting a lot with NPCI folks, and NPCI folks, I mean, they are the most intelligent bunch of people over there, and they kept telling us that UPI will take away the spends of debit card in India, and debit card business is a huge revenue line for any bank, right? Because you charge annual fee on debit card, there is interchange on debit card, and we were very myopic, and we never imagined what PI was going to do to the debit card
Right.
business. And we kept quiet, didn't join the bandwagon, and that's how Google Pay, Paytm, and all these guys took away the entire revenue pie that we had created on debit card business to UPI. And when credit card happened, that's exactly what was playing again, where NPCI folks have been telling banks that if you take away the credit card pie, please start joining the bandwagon, etc. Start working on RuPay cards, enable your ecosystem, etc. But the response has been lukewarm. You can see the number of banks which are certified on credit on
Correct.
UPI. So that's when the thought of Kiwi happened. Kiwi, what we wanted to achieve with Kiwi was a all-in-one credit on UPI app. I mean, it's all uh, credit on UPI being our core focus. We wanted to give everything and anything a customer wants on credit on UPI. He can come to Kiwi. He doesn't need to go to 4 or 5 banks. So I'll just tell you, let's say Hemant today wants to go on the credit on UPI ecosystem. Now imagine the pain he wants to go through. I'll just play a role
Sure.
play around this. That Hemant, let's say, says that, okay, I need to have a RuPay credit card to get into the UPI ecosystem. And first thought that comes to his mind is, let me get a Tata Neo card, correct? That's on HDFC Tata Neo card. He would have gone to the Tata Neo website, applied for the card digitally, and the Tata Neo would have sent it to HDFC. HDFC would have said, okay, I'll fill in your application form. मैं घर आके KYC करता हूँ आपका, KYC करूंगा, आपको 2-3 दिन में कार्ड मिल जाएगा.
Okay.
And actually you end up getting the card in, let's say, 6-7 days. Now all this process has already taken 7-8 days. Now जब कार्ड आया होगा, he to link it to his UPI ID, which is Google Pay or Phone Pay he would have gone through the pain of waiting for the PIN to
Right.
come, right? Or gone to the ATM or mobile app to generate
Correct.
the PIN. तो 2-3 दिन और लग जाएंगे. हेमंत कहेगा मेरे को यार भगवान के लिए क्रेडिट ऑन यूपीआई इकोसिस्टम में डाल दो. He would have then gone to the Google Pay app, linked his credit card, found the PIN that HDFC would have sent, and then started using the card. Now, when he was using on Google Pay, he would have realized कि for let's say a week, 10 days or a month, he would have realized मुझे credit card statement देखनी है, मुझे pay करना है. He would have again gone to HDFC Bank mobile app, seen कि अरे I have a 20,000 rupees due. Let me go to cred or check and make my payment. Correct. And then he would have made payment, and then he would have said, अरे मेरा 1 महीना हो गया, मेरे को 20,000 रुपए खर्च हो गए. Would have got plethora of reward points. Now he doesn't know whether he needs to go to Google Pay to check his reward points, or he needs to go to HDFC to check his reward points. And in most of the cases, he would have ended up with HDFC. He would have realized कि अच्छा reward points हैं, मैं smart buy पे जाके कोई travel website पे जाके खर्च कर लेता. Now this is his 1.5 month journey going around to various apps, etc. to get everything done. Correct. From Tata Neo to HDFC to Cred to Google Pay and then HDFC again. He's at this point of time, just to get on credit on UPI, he has 5 applications on his phone to manage his credit on UPI ecosystem. Here's what Kiwi, what we are doing right now. हम लोग क्या कह रहे हैं कि you download the Kiwi app, we will give you only virtual card, which you will get it in if you are a new to bank customer, etc. You should ideally get it in the same day if you've completed your VKYC. So Hemant would all he needs to do is download the Kiwi app. He gets started. If he's already a existing bank customer of Axis, his information is pre-filled. Otherwise, we also try and pre-fill to whatever extent we have information from the bureau that is supporting us. We pre-fill the information, some confidential information like mother's name, etc. Hemant would need to fill in, and within 3 minutes he would have got approved, decline, etc. And he needs to complete his video KYC. His card would have got generated in 30 minutes to 1 hour, and he would get a message on the app, your card is ready. We will show you the first 6 last 4 digits only. And because we are a TIP app, right? We are an application like Google Pay and Phone Pay. There is already SIM binding done. So Hemant ka SIM binding already ho chuka hai uske phone pe. So unlikely anybody else can use the same Kiwi app or his details. So his card number and OTP would have come, and he would have immediately linked it to Kiwi. And if he's staying in, let's say, close to his house, he can just go down and immediately start using his app through scan and pay transactions or even do online transactions. So this entire journey would have taken him at max 2.5 hours max after doing the VKYC and approval, etc. Plus, we also have on the app only managed card services, which means you can see your bill, you know your limit, where have you spent. Even if you want to generate a statement of your credit card, you at a press of a button, it will go to your mail ID. You can increase and decrease your line. You can, in fact, you can real-time fraud block your card in case any fraud happens. But just remember, we don't issue any physical card. Everything is virtual.
Got it.
So then, like let's say Hemant would have spent 20,000 on anywhere, he would have most likely earned 1% to 2%, anywhere between 1% to 2% cashback in form of Kiwis.
Right.
Now he goes to the reward page on the app only. He presses rewards, and we say that, okay, you have 100 rupees worth of Kiwi you want to claim. He presses the claim button. It goes to the savings account that is linked on the app. Correct?
Yeah.
Like Google Pay, you have a savings account. So it immediately goes. I mean, even if it is 1 rupee, it will go to your savings account immediately. So he doesn't need to go through 4-5 apps. There is 1% assured cashback on scan and pay transaction. You can manage your cards. We will issue you RuPay cards, or we will enable issuance of RuPay cards through the banking partners we have. So that's what we are trying to solve for, as what Kiwi is there. But unlike other TIP apps, we don't take away the customers from the bank. That's the secret sauce that we are trying to play with.
It's a good segue to then ask the next question, Mohit, that explained that the customer completely belongs to the bank and the bank can decide to do what they want to do with the customer. So I'm really keen on understanding of how the economics of this entire product then work out.
As we speak, there are various models that we're working with. So there is a distribution fees that we can charge. There is a spends fee, because the spends happens only on the Kiwi app, right? So part of the interchange is what we can take from the bank. Or there are other business models where we are working with right now, but these are like the models that are existing in the market right now. Because it's a credit card transaction, right? The banks are making 1.8% of interchange income, and they are getting a credit worthy customer. So banks are not very aversive to the fact of sharing this income with players like us.
Understood. And do you see government to promote credit on UPI and RuPay reducing that 1.8% going forward for at least a limited period of time?
So I have a very contrary way. Why do you need to reduce this when you remember payment convenience, and in this case it is like super convenience, correct? And this interchange is being charged from the merchant. He's already used to a swipe happening and interchange getting deducted on a credit card. Unlike a UPI transaction, which was new to the ecosystem, merchant wasn't aware of interchange fees, etc. Correct? In this case, obviously, it's MDR as per merchant. So he's already used to that ecosystem. Why do you want to reduce something when there is convenience for the customer and the merchant is getting a fairly bigger pie to now play with, right? See, merchant के लिए customer भगवान है, correct? And अगर भगवान आ रहे हैं आपके मंदिर में, मतलब आपके पास आ रहे हैं, a merchant gives him whatever payment options he has, correct? And if it comes at a slightly higher cost and more customers can come into his shop, I don't think he will refute the fact that I will not encourage this, correct? For him, spends are more important, the customer is more important, and 1.5% of MDR for a merchant, because see, ultimately UPI is more of a scan and pay vertical,
correct.
right? For a small merchant less than 2000, there is actually zero
Correct.
interchange.
It's only about 2K. You're right,
So
Mohit.
yeah, small. See, when UPI or I don't know if you remember, debit card ka interchange was rationalized
Correct.
during 3-4 years back. Actually, it wasn't that the small merchant gained; it was the big merchant who took everybody for a
Right.
ride, right? कि उनको अच्छा हुआ कि डेबिट कार्ड का रेगुलेशन आ गया डीएफएस से कि वी विल गिव डेबिट कार्ड पे देयर वाज अ रिस्ट्रिक्शन ऑफ अमाउंट ऑफ इंटरचेंज यू कैन
Right.
चार्ज, राइट, द 40 basis point. Now, actually, small merchant was always ready to pay because for him, customer is paramount and there is no way he's not going to give a payment option. It is the large merchants who actually gained, and that's not what government wanted. But with credit on UPI, when they say that there is no interchange on small ticket, small merchant, they are actually getting the right set of merchants to play the ecosystem,
Right.
right? Because large merchants should ideally pay MDR, right? It is the small merchants who should gain from more
Correct.
traffic, and that's what this guideline would actually benefit.
Understood. Now, Mohit, when you explained us the technology behind how the credit on UPI would work, plus you also are on the UPI via TPAP. This seems to be a lot of technology challenges and a lot of technology to be solved for. So, how did you approach that?
So I'll tell you what, and going back to again when we were debit and UPI had actually launched, initially you will always have success rate
Right.
issues, right? Because the whole ecosystem is trying to get ready with it. Now the first technology challenge is that, in a sense, there are transaction declines happening. There is the approval rate is not as good as a credit card transaction, a BAU credit card
Yeah.
transactions, because these merchants have been actually been given UPI QR codes by PhonePe, Paytm, etc. Now they have not explained it better, or there are some merchants who are saying कि मेरे को 2000 below की ही transactions मैं approve करूंगा, ऊपर की होगी तो decline कर दूंगा. So then you have to actually educate them कि ऐसा नहीं होता है. This is not a democracy. It is you accept all transaction or you don't accept all transactions,
Yeah.
right? So it is not only technology; it is just creating awareness that is taking time for the whole ecosystem play to get the success rate right. Now our success rate currently is anywhere close to 75% or thereabout, whereas a credit card success rate, you all know, is anywhere between 92 to
Correct.
95%, right? So the ecosystem is getting used to these tracks. The merchants need to be educated. There are new kind of error codes that are coming and we are deciphering with NPCI. So that might take a bit of time, but I think this will all stabilize in, I think, 2-3 months or thereabout.
Totally agree, Mohit.
Understood.
या बट हम लोगों को थोड़ा पेशेंस रखना
हाँ.
पड़ेगा. एक्चुअली हमारे एक तो कस्टमर्स आर द मोस्ट इम्पेशेंट पीपल,
Right.
एंड उस कस्टमर्स में द मोस्ट इम्पेशेंट कस्टमर्स somehow tend to end up at social media. माय
I know.
गॉड, हम लोगों का एक ट्रांजैक्शन भी डिक्लाइन होता है तो मतलब
it's the end of
द
the world.
वर्ल्ड हैज लाइक, हाँ, but my and people don't realize this is a very complicated business,
Right.
right? So the concept of teething problem doesn't exist as per them. All I'm trying to say is that just give it 2-3 months. I think more transactions happen, more learnings will happen, and better success rates etc. will start
And
happening.
Mohit,
I'm
the
sure.
crazy part is उसी कस्टमर ने सक्सेसफुल ट्रांजैक्शन किया तो कभी बोलेगा नहीं.
हाँ, नहीं, but I'll give you this very good analogy. हमारे साथ क्या हुआ था कि हमने एंड्रॉइड पे लॉन्च
हाँ.
किया था एंड वी हैड लॉन्च्ड इट विद वेट लिस्ट,
Right.
करेक्ट? एंड होता क्या है, हम एक तो ये इकोसिस्टम हम लोगों को पता नहीं, हम तो बैंकर्स हैं, हम लोग तो पहली
हाँ.
बार आए थे इसमें. तो एंड्रॉइड पे सडनली वन डे वी ओपन द ऐप एंड द रेटिंग वाज डाउन टू आई थिंक 1.82 का
Okay.
रेटिंग, एंड द ऐप स्टोर पीपल स्टार्टेड टेलिंग अस ये क्या रेटिंग चल रहा है तुम लोगों का. तो हमने जाके नीचे कमेंट में पढ़ा और लोगों ने बोला हुआ है कि आई एम स्टिल ऑन वेट लिस्ट 1 स्टार. आई सेड व्हाट द हेल यार, crazy. So फिर then when we slightly opened it to 1000-2000 odd customers, तो रेटिंग फिर और गिरने लगा. तो अब वो जिनका डिक्लाइन होता है ना, क्रेडिट कार्ड इज अ लेंडिंग
Correct.
प्रोडक्ट, राइट? देयर इज अ 50% चांस यू विल गेट इट. तो जिसका डिक्लाइन होता है वो तो 1 रेटिंग दे देता है, जिसका अप्रूव होता है वो रेटिंग ही नहीं देता. दैट इज द ट्रूथ ऑफ लाइफ. तो फिर गिरने लगा, तो हमको ये समझ ही नहीं आया. फिर देन वी सेड लेट्स धीरे धीरे चलते हैं. बट देन आर अप्रूव we've approved close to 6 to 10,000
Oh,
cards. But the beauty is that our App Store rating is now above of 4
Yeah,
star,
that's right.
both on App Store, both on iOS and Android. So we realized over a period of time bad customers initially आते ही हैं जो मतलब आपको बहुत अजीब सा फीडबैक देते हैं. बट द गुड कस्टमर स्टार्टेड रेटिंग आवर ऐप आल्सो डिसेंटली वेल. सो इट्स बीन अ जर्नी यार. हम लोगों को तो वी आर नॉट यूज्ड टू ऑल दिस, सो वी वर शॉक्ड
yeah,
इनिशियली.
yeah.
But now I think we've got used to it.
Understood. Well, we've also seen the customer where the comment would say fantastic product and 1 star because they thought that if 1 star is like 1 star, good.
Correct. Well, it is hilarious. Matlab, I the the worst part was when customer said I'm still on waiting list 1 star. अरे यार कुछ reason है, please थोड़ा improve करने दो ऐप को. अभी like for example I'll tell you one more customer. He said I can't see my card
Right.
number. So and card number is a very secured. You need to be PCI DSS certified if you want to show card number, and we didn't want to show the card number till the certification happened. एंड हम कस्टमर को बता रहे हैं जस्ट गिव अस अ वीक्स टाइम. इट्स नॉट अ स्मॉल सर्टिफिकेशन यार. तो वो मेरा ख्याल हर कस्टमर डाल रहा है कि कार्ड नंबर नहीं दिख रहा, कार्ड नंबर नहीं दिख रहा, और हम बोल रहे हैं कि थोड़ा हमको सिक्योर होने दो. वी डोंट यू डोंट वांट टू कॉम्प्रोमाइज ऑन डिटेल्स लाइक
Right.
दिस. But then these are unavoidable things. But now card number is up and running, so all those certifications are in place, and now we are absolutely compliant with everything. So we've opened it to the world. Now you can actually see your full card number, etc.
Understood. So, Mohit, you told about the traction that you have about 6,000 odd cards which have already issued. So, tell us about the growth and expansion plans that you have for the future for Kiwi.
Our stated goal is to enable the ecosystem with at least 1 million customers in next 12 to
Okay.
18 months. That's what we want to do, and we are right now we are taking it slowly. We've not gone whole hog. I mean, we've not done any advertising or any kind of performance marketing, etc. As of now, because we wanted to get these things sorted out, like the card number thing I was
Right.
mentioning, or the success rate actually crossing somewhere around 80-85%, so that customer experience becomes even better. So we are just waiting for the whole ecosystem to stabilize. So we are issuing close to 5-6,000 cards. We will continue to issue at least 8 to 10,000 cards a month is what the plan is right now. But we will take it to the next level once the checkboxes as far as customer experience are concerned is taken care of, which is a good success rate. He's able to manage all his transaction, and he's got used to everything, and the approval rates of the kind of customers we are getting is at a decent level of at least 45-50%. So we're just waiting for these checkboxes to happen for us to scale, yeah, or take it to the next level. But irrespective of the fact, whenever we want, we like press the accelerator. We want to enable the whole ecosystem with at least a million customers in next 12 to 18 months. That's our stated goal.
Mohit, thanks a ton for joining us on the show today. It's definitely been an interesting and very enlightening discussion for us. If our listeners wanted to know more about Kiwi, what's the best way to do this?
So we obviously have our website up and running, which is gokiwi.in. Next thing is you can just go to the App Store. If you search for Kiwi right now, both on Apple and Android, it's coming as #1 app as when you search for Kiwi. That's amazing because of the number of people that are searching for us. But just in case you still don't get it in your search, if you even search for credit, Kiwi credit or Kiwi UPI, you'll find the app and you can download and start your credit on UPI journey immediately.
Fantastic, Mohit. We'll include all those details in the show notes. Thanks a ton for joining us today and sharing insights, Mohit.
Elroy and Hemant, thanks a lot. This is my first podcast and it's been the most entertaining one. Thank you for having me on this show, and I'm looking forward to it.
Completely our pleasure, Mohit. That concludes another exciting episode of India Fintech Diaries. Remember to visit our website, indiafintechdiaries.com, for exclusive content. Until next time, stay safe and keep exploring the world of fintech.